marketing. Who announces themselves with plumes of smoke from a chimney in New England? Not us. We're just a small, bijou and compact podcast about Liverpool Football Club, but we are the American Scouser TV Thursday night podcast. ASTV if you know the language, ASTV if you're Latin, and those handsome bald guys if you're one of the ladies. But for everybody else, we're just those Muppets who show up every Thursday night to talk about Liverpool and other things. Now we're joined tonight. There's only three of us. So with the bald G's again, the BGs, the bald guys, by Suzie and Brian. Suzie, how are we?
I'm good, thanks, Macka. How are you?
I'm very, very tired, but also very, very encouraged by what we're going to talk about tonight. And we can all guess who our main target will be for a lot of it. Brian, how are we?
Wonderful.
I mean, it is a wonderful time. Here's what we're going to talk about today. Well, I did not realize in the busyness of my normal working day just what kind of shenanigans Arteta got up to after the game, but gaslighting worthy of Sherlock Holmes era London in the fog. We'll talk a little bit about his insanity. There's English teams all over the lower European contests. So we'll talk about that and how strong that the league might actually end up being, despite every other non-Liverpool fan trying to take away from our imminent lifting of a trophy. We have something in place of Room 433 tonight. We're going to have to resurrect some of the worst and most annoying players to play for Liverpool in the Premier League here, and the two lads are going to have to justify bringing one of them back for the current squad. And then we'll talk about the game this weekend against Arsenal, the second guard of honour. This time it's biblical. On the day that it's in it, it's biblical for sure. But let us talk about the first thing. Cozzy was all over us last week about the phrase bottlers, but they certainly bottled that game against PSG. Now, if we remember, either in the post-match against PSG, I'm pretty sure it was the post-match or the Thursday podcast, I said that was the best attacking team we were going to play all season. And it looks like they may end up winning this Champions League because I don't know if Inter have the legs to keep up with their pace of their attacks. It really was a game of men against boys, a fantastic semi-final over both legs from Barca and Inter Milan, but still a very young Barcelona team and a very old and experienced but old Inter Milan team in comparison. PSG more the same, but for Arsenal, here's the deal, lads. This is what I want to get your opinions on. We'll start with Suzie because we know Arteta is your favourite topic outside of Liverpool, but is he on drugs? Because his interpretation of the game afterwards was different to literally everybody's, and apparently even Luis Enrique's, who couldn't understand what the hell he was talking about because he said things happened that Luis Enrique said never happened. Is somebody on the Discord compared him to Brendan Rodgers, but even Brendan Rodgers has never been delusional to that extent, is he? What is this man's deal? Is he a poser? Is he a chancer? Is he a fly-by-night? Is he the Arthur Daly of soccer coaches?
I said it last week, and I think us three were on the same boat, and Kazi was different. He just epitomizes what Arsenal Football Club are, just delusional. It's like he's trying to be someone that he's not. I don't even think he knows who he wants to be. And, just even if you read into his personal life, like I don't know why he even decided to share this knowledge. Like he said, like the only reason his wife married him is because he was stalking her. And that's the type of person that is in charge of that football club. The fact that he tried to use the Community Shield as an argument for what he's won. At first, I thought, maybe it's just being tongue-in-cheek. But I really think he actually believes in his own stupidity. And it's got all these Arsenal fans, or not all, I think the split to just believing in him. And it's just, oh my God. It reminds me of a certain person running the most powerful nation in the world, and it's just like he so believes in his own crap that if I was an Arsenal fan, I'd be scared. Like, you know, this guy. I think to call him a bottler, if you use the terminology of bottling, I don't think he bottled it, because I don't think that Arsenal were ever in a position to win the Champions League or the Premier League. So I don't think he bottled it. I think he believed in his own accolades too much. Everyone outside that club, even the supporters, knew they needed a striker, but because they scored 92 goals last season and they just happened to be winning a few games 5-6-0 or whatever, he believed that he needed a striker. So he outsmarted himself, and you can see with his training regimes, like bringing out that you never walk alone and training to that, and he just overthinks the game. You know, having his players like pickpocketed in restaurants and then trying to light up a bulb with their own energy. It's just cringe. He's epitome of cringe, and I'm so glad, so glad Arsenal walk away with nothing, and I just really hope Tottenham win a trophy this season and end up in the Champions League, and Arsenal somehow come sick.
I believe because it's all in England final, if Chelsea win, I think England gets the 6th place or something. I heard that on Sirius XFM, but it was also Eric Wijnaldum saying it, so that might be entirely inaccurate. But Brian, he did make the statement, very odd one, that Arsenal were the best team in the Champions League, which you would think if you were the best team in the Champions League, you'd still be in the Champions League. I don't think they played the best football. I'll say it again. I think PSG against us, when they manhandled us at Anfield, played some of the best attacking football we'd seen at Anfield in years as Liverpool fans. I think that they were just a very efficient, very mobile, very quick, and smart footballing side. So where's Arteta getting this from? He doesn't have any strikers. As midfielders, he's essentially Tony Pulis now at this point, in terms of the Antonio Pulis, in terms of scoring from set pieces. I mean, I know there's, you listen to, almost by contrast, his press conferences and then Ange Postecoglou's, where he's just going, I don't know what to tell you. We've got 20 million injuries, and I'm still going to play this way because when they come back, this is how we want to do it anyway. And then there's Arteta, the aliens flew by and the gust of wind affected the oblong shape of the ball, and the grass was lying to the left when it should have been lying to the right. And if we had all of the goals that we had ever scored in the history of the club, we would have won the Champions League semi-final. I mean, the guy's delusional.
It's like Spencer said in the comments right there, excuses FC. I mean, when you actually have like your popular podcasts that go there basically saying the guy's a fraud, which I watched it last night with great pleasure, and saying get this guy out. This guy's a fraud. We're never going to win anything with this guy. It kind of tells you something right there about what he is. I mean, again, the best side in the Champions League? No way. I mean, we all said that, like you said earlier right there, we all said that as far as attacking goes right there, I think PSG was probably the most free-flowing side that there is in there. And I think that right now that Inter Milan is probably the most structured defensively side, which is probably going to set up for a very, very good Champions League final. I mean, and to see how that's going to work out. So, I mean, and where Arsenal's at in there, I mean, yeah, I mean, I give them their credit right there. I mean, with Real Madrid, but I mean, you just have like but again, that's another mess of a club at the moment, also. So, what do you want? What do you expect out of us right there? I mean, so you claim that a charity shield is an actual silverware. It's a friendly. I'm sorry, it's a friendly. That's all it is right there. It's to kick off the league, like we all know right there. It doesn't do any. It's nothing right there. Again, if Spurs come up there and win the Europa League, it'll be so pleasurable to watch right there, because I almost feel like with Sir Z about Arsenal right there. I mean, again, right there, their fan base is delusional, and they deserve what they got. They have a delusional manager with them.
So if you remember him as a player, he played around, I think, he may have been coming to the end of his career, if I remember, age-wise, at the same time as Xabi Alonso.
Xabi Alonso.
He was a bog standard continental number 6. Nothing flashy about him. I don't remember him being hailed as like a great passer of the ball from deep or anything. He was the Didier Deschamps kind of a player for that era for Everton and Arsenal. Do you think he has an inferiority complex? Because on the Arsenal team, at least, he was surrounded by some real, genuine talent. And then at Everton, he wasn't, but he still wasn't the best player on that team. Do you think maybe he's got like a huge inferiority complex that he's trying to push these little victories to make them look like they're, a bit bigger than they really are, because he's afraid he's going to get found out, really?
Yeah, I don't know if you've watched the American Psycho movie, but that's what he reminds me of, like the Spanish Psycho. He's just, I mean, even back then, he had the likes of Alonso, Fabregas to play, along, and again, he's always been the worst out of every group. And like you said, even at Everton, he like never really stood out.
Thomas Gravenberg was a better midfielder, and Thomas Gravenberg was more. He was a good hard man midfielder, but he wasn't a talented one.
And I don't remember Arteta being a hard man. I remember a couple of dodgy fouls that he committed, where he got sent off for, and he's just like Spencer said. It's just excuse FC. It's just everything. Nothing about him seems genuine. He's like he's shown up in a cosplay of Pep Guardiola. And he's tried to be like him, and he's trying to have that arrogance. But even with Pep, I mean, people might mistake his arrogance or say he is arrogant, but there's a difference between being a born winner and arrogance. And that's what Pep Guardiola is, for all the crap that we give him and the charges of City and everything else. But Pep can back up what he says. And Pep will also give credit. How much credit has it given to Jurgen Klopp? How much credit has it given to Liverpool and our front three and so forth? I tell you, he can't even give credit to anyone. If his team loses, it's because something else, which isn't his fault, which is why they lost. And for a team like Liverpool, where pretty much the whole country hates Liverpool because of political reasons or whatever. For Arsenal to be the most hated club in England now, that's some going. And it's and he's just a liar. I mean, I don't understand how you can publicly say that the PSG bench said they were the better team. And I'm so glad an interviewer called him out on it. And it's like, oh, wait, they said that? Who said that? And then they, questioned Enrique about it, and he's like, wait, no, no one said that. And hopefully someone else will put him up on a press conference tomorrow about it, and someone else will bring it up, because he just, I don't know why he thinks he can fool everyone. And you got to be the most delusional Arsenal fan to support what Arteta's doing. 8 years he's been there, spent £800 million, and he's got nothing to show for it. And you see Arne Slot come in, bearing in mind it's the same team as last season. He bought a £12 million player, which wasn't his, as a token, just to shut some people up player, which he never played. And he won the league in his first season. And next to PSG, we were probably the best Champions League team. We won that league before we went into the knockouts. We were just unlucky enough to get PSG out of it. So where he thinks they're the best team in the Champions League, that doesn't even make sense. That that midfield I think is overrated, because Rice scored a couple of good free kicks against Madrid, and suddenly everyone's talking about him becoming Ballon d'Or. No, none of that team, none of them players are Ballon d'Or worthy. None of them. Not even the defense. I think the defense is overrated. I think Saliba is a good defender, but he's not in the same sentence as Virgil. Neither is Gabriel. They're not. And I read today, like, these PSG fans were coming out and they said, so explaining the difference between Liverpool fans and Liverpool Football Club and Arsenal, and said even though, we went out to them, that we're more gracious in our defeat, and we put our hands up, we lost to a good team. And they even admitted that we didn't really lose, we lost some penalties. They said there's a big difference between Liverpool and Arsenal, and it's there for the world to see. And yeah, and like I said before, Arteta, he just epitomizes that club from top to bottom. The players are delusional. They think they're better. They think they are better than what they are, and it's just the British media narrative. They need they desperately need a London club to win this Premier League, and Arsenal were their only hope, and that's gone.
And then, before I move on to Brian, like that whole idea of saying things that can be fact checked and proven wrong, but believing them and saying them anyway, that's a huge mark of a narcissist personality, really, isn't
Yes.
it?
That's the word.
Everybody Definitely. Else is stupid except me. That's not me saying that. Everybody's way more intelligent than me. Even this can of soda that I'm not sponsoring is more intelligent than me. But let me say this, Brian, because you mentioned listening to or watching other podcasts, you traitor. You can go live together for all I care. No, but there is an apparent split in the Arsenal support, and when you get to that stage, it's really only a matter of time for the manager, isn't it? Unless they pull something big out of the bag, because another season like this next season, the Arsenal fans that are backing them right now, that number will get smaller and smaller. And then when it becomes vocal, the board at some point has to act, don't they? Especially if they have a hangover next year from this year.
I mean, that same pressure happened to Arsene Wenger. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, how many Wenger out signs did you see? Podcasts. I mean, you saw Facebook posts. I mean, there's so much social media right there calling for Wenger to come out. They're probably their most successful manager that they've ever had. I mean, that basically turned that club completely around from when George Graham was there. I mean, it was a totally different club. I mean, again, and I think that you're going to wind up having like Stan Kroenke and those guys there are going to think about money and ultimately they all do. But I think that their fan base right there is going to force, if they don't win anything, silverware or an FA Cup or something like that. I think you probably have about one more season left of Arteta, and that's probably about it. And then I think that he's basically going to be at 9 years with no silverware. Spending probably this summer, they'll probably spend another £100 million right there so you're talking probably close to £900 million probably spent in nine seasons. And if you don't win anything, what's there to show about it? Not even a Carabao Cup. I mean, nothing. I mean, so yeah, I think that you definitely have to you're seeing that Arteta's tenure is definitely going to being threatened right there if he doesn't see some kind of success within the next 12 months.
I just want to address this point here. It's not the topic we're going to talk about tonight, but I will just say I think all three of us are agreed. If Arnie Slot goes off to Turkey and comes back with full head of hair, he's dead to us. Dead, I tell you. Traitor. But seriously, we remember that Arsenal team of George Graham. It was a good team, but it was a very efficient team. It was that 1-0 to the Arsenal thing came from that team specifically. They were well drilled. They had good talent, and George Graham knew how to use that talent when he wasn't taking bungs under the table to fluff his pension fund. But then Arsene Wenger comes in and a couple of managers later, and George Graham was always assured. George Graham looked like he knew what he wanted to do. He didn't care what you think about what he was going to do. He was going to knock the ball up long to Alan Smith. He was going to nod it on to Ian Wright. He was going to put the ball in the back of the net. And then when you try and score for the next 89 minutes, Tony Adams and Martin Keown or Steve Bold and David Seaman were going to keep you out. And he didn't care what you thought about it. Arsene Wenger didn't care what you thought about the fact that he wanted to get the ball down on the ground to play, which was, people will not remember, especially if they're younger, was not a thing in the Premier League. It was still a very British, get it forward as quickly as possible league. And then, after that, after Wenger, just, no success really, but managers not getting support or managers just not being the right mix. Arteta comes in and we don't know what he's doing. He should be accused as much as Ruben Amorim has been of not knowing which way he wants to take that club, shouldn't he? Because he's started off with the Pep 2.0, Barca Bowl, And then it slowly morphed into Stoke, Sam Allardyce 2.0, where it's very set piece based. It's very hard. Let's be hard to break down. The logic behind it isn't too bad. If you don't have a striker, then the next best thing to do is get good at set pieces. But he's also trying to play as if he has a striker, and he's fronting up against opposition teams as if he's got Isak or Salah up front. A manager like that who doesn't know which direction to take his team is never going to be successful, is he?
No. And we saw that with Brendan Rodgers as well. I think Brendan Rodgers, the season where we almost won the league, I credit Suarez and Gerrard with that more than Brendan Rodgers. And again, Brendan Rodgers is another one. His ego gets the better of him. And I think because of that, it's probably why he kind of wanted to push Gerrard out and show who the bigger person is in that club. I think
just let me defend my fellow countryman there just a little bit though. The smart thing he did was get out of the way though. He let them play, he let Suarez and Sturridge and Coutinho and Sterling be who they were. Arteta won't do that, will he? He thinks he has to manage everything.
And he went in there and he got, he picked a fight with Aubameyang and got rid of him. For all of Aubameyang's faults, he could score a goal, which is what they needed. He got rid of him, got rid of Lacazette, and I understand wanting to go in somewhere and stamping your authority or whatever, but he's just so stubborn in his own thinking, and again, I think he's in his head too much, which is why he does these weird things in the training ground and everything else. And again, you look at Slot, he just came rocking in, didn't change anything, didn't let his ego get the better of him. And the reason why, I know at the beginning of the season, I think I was the only one, along with Trevor, that said Liverpool win this. I looked at what he did at pre-season, and it was the defense. That's the first thing he sorted out. And that's the only thing that with Klopp, he couldn't ever sort out. He couldn't manipulate his defense in the middle of games. And that's what Slot did. And other than that, we had a title winning team. As much as some people, I think Carly says this isn't a team ready to win the league. We were. We just didn't. We weren't mature enough to change our tactics mid-game, and Klopp didn't do that, and Linders didn't do that, but Slot did, and which is why we're 15 points clear. And that's a telling thing on Arteta. He spent more money than even Pep has, and 800 million, and you've got nothing to show for it, and it's just. Long may it continue. I absolutely don't feel sorry for Arsenal fans whatsoever, or Arsenal. But he is delusional, and he just, again, narcissist. It just sums him up. It's the best word for him, and and I really hope he gets called out. I think it looks like the media is starting to turn on him a bit and starting to put the screws in. So it'll be interesting to see how he deals with it. From using excuses of it's a different football and whatever, and he just even though these excuses just put Arsenal fans in the firing line as well, and it's going to get to the point where these Arsenal fans are just going to we can't defend him anymore. And even Arsenal fans, for them to boo Wenger, pretty much told you all you need to know about them. I don't think for what Wenger did for that club. And he changed British football completely. For him to get the vitriol that he did towards the end was just. I understand he wasn't, winning anything. He was still getting him into the top four, but to boo him and Wenger out of signs and everything else, it was horrible. And actually, I think they were the first supporters that started booing their own players back in the day. They started that trend of to boo their own players off. So. That club deserves everything again. I really, really do hope. Well, they can't even get a community shield next season either because they're not even in that. They're just this is a horrible club.
Any of you lads know what the light bulb bit is? Because I don't know. I'm now going to have to research that after the show.
Yeah. So what he did was he had this meeting. And he said Edison invented the light bulb, and he was trying to light the light bulb with all their positive energy. And It's just Uri Geller shit. Like no one really needs this crap.
So he thinks you can win the league, guys, using the power of your mind.
Yeah,
That's the best. That's the best Uri Geller impression that anybody has ever heard. Mostly because nobody knows what Uri Geller sounds like. So I win. Yeah, just a bizarre little man. Now let's flip it over to the other side of that equation from last night. Brian, Luis Enrique's comment about the Farmers League. It's been an accusation. The Farmers League is where I come from. At least it's when it's one team's just dominating, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've been given that accusation as fans of Liverpool club because we ran away with it so much. But the fact that Spurs and United are in the final of the Europa, Chelsea are in the final of the Conference, Arsenal in the semi-finals of the Champions League, and facing the team that had a tough time, as great as they were, beating us over the two legs. We have to be able to point to that as Liverpool fans and say the Premier League is probably actually stronger than it's been in a long time, because the mid-table teams are now, they have plans. They're not just there for the money. They have ambitions. We complain maybe about the extra games or the extra European places, but it has given a lot of teams an incentive to not give up after January. Like, we're not getting relegated, we're not winning anything, let's just take it easy for the rest of the season. And the strength of that league, do you think, may help us in the next 2 or 3 seasons? Because if it remains that way, it means teams are still going to take points off each other in the mid-table, taking away points off the challengers, which, again, if Slot's thing is consistency, that helps us immensely, doesn't it? Unless other teams start to find that consistency.
I think the one thing you have to go with is that you have an aging Manchester City that has to get rebuilt. You have an Arsenal squad right there, which possibly right there is basically bottlers. I mean, I guess you could say. So the top right there is up for grabs at the moment right there. I think you have some younger squads right there, with like Aston Villa right there. If Aston Villa goes and builds off themselves, I think that Forest kind of faded away a lot. Chelsea right there. I mean, Chelsea right there have a lot of youth and a lot of players, period, right there, that they can actually go and do something with. So I think it's kind of also telling right there when you have 14th and 15th place right there is actually playing each other in a final. It says something. I mean, in a European final, it says something like you said. It's a pretty strong league. And I think the likes of Bournemouth and Brentford and are good clubs. I mean, they're very well run clubs, and I think that they're going to challenge. Forest, the same thing. I mean, all these clubs are going to go through. I think it's going to be a really big trouble for clubs coming up from the championship right there to actually get any foothold in this league right there in the way it is at the moment. Because I really think that even if you want to talk going all the way down to the 17th spot, Wolves are not a bad squad. I mean, and so you're talking about pretty much an entire league right there. Crystal Palace right there is down there. They're in the FA Cup final. I mean, so again, right there, you have a lot of talent in there. As far as as far as PSG goes, I think one thing that kind of makes me laugh about PSG is that this team is now in the European Cup without Mbappe. I mean, so that just tells you something right there about having certain players and focal players that you don't need that exactly one element right there. And I think this league right there pretty much exemplifies that, because I think you have a lot of actually clubs there that are team based. I mean, or you don't have that one giant superstar in there. I mean, because you can't even really say Haaland is a giant superstar, because again, if he doesn't get the ball to him right there, he doesn't go in there, he doesn't score. So you have a more complete league, I think, out of this. And it's a very competitive league. And so, Al just going to rehash some of the comments I heard right there about saying that, how poor this season was for us to win and stuff like that. It's full of shit. Sorry, my language right there. I mean, but again, this league has been so competitive that people took points off each other. The only thing, like I said, like last week and week before right there, we just did our job. We came. I mean, we did our job. We came in. We did what we were supposed to do, and we came through. That's why we have a 15-point advantage over top of everybody else.
I just want to show that pitch again. That may be a Farmers League pitch. It may also be Everton's new ground. Who knows? But Turkish Stallion Timuchin says that looks like the field you refed on earlier today. I will admit I did line a football pitch that badly once, and I wasn't even drunk. But it was dark. That's my excuse in any case. But yeah, that's what happens when you have the wrong equipment and not
looks
the
like a
wrong
slice of
skill.
pizza.
Yes, there you go. It's like a slice of pizza. Now, Suzy, the strength of the league could be seen in the fact, do you think, that, you know, the likes of Liverpool, the likes of City, the likes of Chelsea are no longer looking to PSG or Real Madrid or Barcelona or Inter Milan or AC Milan or Juventus to get players. We're quite happy to go to Wolves, quite happy to take a player out of Crystal Palace, quite happy to take a player out of Nottingham Forest that will boost either a title-winning team or a title-challenging team. The fact that there's talent in you know, even the bottom three that are getting relegated have players that you go, that they could be handy. That's the real measure of the strength of the league, isn't it? The talent isn't being concentrated in 2 or 3 clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, they talk about strength of the league, but you look at the teams that have improved, like Nottingham Forest, Newcastle this season. Why Spurs are in the big six talk, I will never know. I don't know who Daniel Levy paid off for that to try and be in the ESL and pretend they're a top 6 club. They're not. They haven't been in the big 6 club for God knows how long. You know, you have to win things, and even if they win the Europa, it doesn't make them a big 6 club. You look at the Ballon d'Or winner last year, Rodri. It's going to be Salah probably this season. I think this year is the first time in 23 years that we don't have an English club in the Champions League final. But regardless of which, you know, all the other teams that bought, apart from Liverpool, all the other teams spent money and bought players, whether from abroad or whatever. So they strengthened, and they didn't just buy mediocre players. They bought players that did well in the Europa, the Euros last year, and we just happened to have a manager that knew what he was doing, and we already had the quality of players. And if Arsenal won the league this season, or if Man City won the league again this season, no one will talk about the strength of the league. They'll just be, everyone will get the plaudits. It's just because Stock came in and he just showed everyone up. And I mean, that Man City team, you know, it's reminiscent of what happened with Dalglish the first time. You know, he had the team, and there was no future planning beyond the players that they had in regards to replacing the aging world-class players. And, you know, Liverpool went through that same thing, and that foresight, you know, took us 30 years to recover from. I don't think Man City would have that issue because they would just buy themselves out of it. But even then, they spent 250 million in January, and out of that, Mark Mish is the only one who really stands out. So I don't know how much money they're going to spend this summer. They're probably just going to hope that they can win this World Club Cup and get whatever amount. I think it's 100 million prize for that. But the league isn't weak. It's just that's just the narrative everyone wants to play. And you know, we lost 2 games. Forget last week. You know, that's just that doesn't count. You know, we won. We've lost 2 competitive games this year in this league, and like Brian said, you know, we did our job. It's not our fault. We're not there to make sure no one's got injuries, and we're not there to make sure that their players haven't aged and they're not replaced. You know, last season we had so many injuries last season. To Salah went to AFCON. You know, Alisson was out again for long periods. Szoboszlai was out for long periods. No one cared about injuries then. No one cared about injuries when Van Dijk was out, and every person that we put in defence having to get an injury. No one cared. Like, you know, and just like we shouldn't care. You know, Arsenal had no injuries last season, so why didn't they win the league? You know, it's just something that they just want to beat us over the head with, and it doesn't diminish. For me, it doesn't diminish anything from what we won, and it shouldn't. You know, it's just a narrative that Arsenal fans are trying to put out there. And if anything, it just shows that the lack of injuries that we had, bearing in mind that Alisson was injured for a long period, Trent was injured for a long period, and when he wasn't injured, his head was already in Madrid. Jota hasn't really come back from injury. Nunes, he couldn't score in a brothel. So, it's we have our issues. We have our issues, and we're still 15. We won. We're 15 points clear, and it just speaks more for our backroom staff and the sports science behind our team and our physios that we can look after our players. We should be beaten over the head with it. Again, going back to Arsenal, £800 million. What do you have to show for that? That's more money than Liverpool spent in like 5-6 years, and we've won now two leagues in 5 years. Champions League, World Club Cup, Super Cup, 3 Champions League finals. It's not a weak league because we just keep the league itself attracts the best players. Hence why Haaland is here and is here for another 10 years. We've had the best midfielders in the world with KDB. We've had Mane, we've had Salah, we have Firmino, Van Dijk, the best defender in the world. We've got the best goalkeeper in the world in that league. It's not a weak league. It's just that we just did it better than everyone else. And to PSG's point, I really hated that team when Neymar was there, Messi was there, and I didn't think they would ever win anything. I'll give it hats off to Luis Enrique. He got rid of the big egos out of that team, and they're so reminiscent of what we were under with Klopp. With Dembele and I can't even pronounce his name, so I was going to call him Mr. K and all the rest of them. They're just, even the fullbacks, just amazing. They're just such a great team, and we held our own against them. I really, I'll be surprised if they don't win the Champions League this season, and I'll be surprised if no one tries to go in for the big name players next season. I don't see PSG selling them because they don't need to. Like Ajax did or Dortmund had to. I think they can keep hold of their strong players, but they'll be definitely a force to reckon with next season again.
You say Darwin Núñez couldn't score on a brothel, but he does have a son, so it makes you wonder. That's the point. Trevor says, just call him KK, stop one short of being problematic, but also that's Kevin Keegan, Trevor. Yeah, can't be spoiling his initials. I just want to go back to this field thing here, because Spencer says it looks like Stevie Wonder did that. This is not soccer related, but the Met Gala thing he was on during the week, and it was on the news as I was getting ready, and they were, all the fashion stuff, with the weird shaped hats and the dresses made out of feathers and money and bags of meat and whatnot. And then cuts was seen, and it was like, and Stevie Wonder was there as well in attendance. And I was like, but what's he getting out of it? It's a fashion show. You can't see any of it. Nothing soccer related. I just thought that was really weird that he was at a fashion show that he can't see. Yeah. So let's get on to the fun part of the night, which isn't just me. So here's the challenge you lads have. We don't have Cosy, but we're doing this anyway. So now you get to pick 2. You get to pick 2 of these fine gentlemen that will play a whole season, an entire 4-season contract in the current Liverpool team. They have various, qualities and various negative traits. So what you have to do is, and we'll alternate, your first choice, your second choice. Pick one, explain why they fit into this team, and then we get to pelt you with tomatoes. And for your or tomatoes if you're American. That's just for Brian, so he knows what I'm talking about. And why they justify why they would get into this Liverpool team despite them being shitehawks, as we say back in Dublin. So we'll start with you, Brian. You get to peruse it. You can't pick the same player though. So once a player's picked, he's eliminated from the list. So Brian, have a look at that and pick your first player that you think whose voices we could manage in this current Liverpool team and would actually, in fact, enhance it?
Aspas in a heartbeat right there, because actually if you go back and look at his record in Spain, he scores. What do we have that we have problems right now with forwards? We don't have forwards that score. So yeah, definitely Aspas. I know that he got a pretty bad slack right there when he was with us, but I don't think that it was all that bad. I think it was how the method that he was being played. But yeah, I mean, I definitely would take Aspas over top of all those group.
Now you say that, but you couldn't even take a corner properly. And that's not a system
thing. Had on earlier on.
That's not a system thing. That's just been crap.
I mean, you go look at his record in Spain after he left us. I mean, after he left us right there, he came there and scored. I think it was can't quite remember. It was close to 20 goals the following season.
Yeah, but it was a lot of penalties as well. I remember that because Liverpool fans were saying like he's scoring. It must be Brendan Rodgers, but there were a lot of penalties. But here's my challenge to you though. He didn't do it for Liverpool, and that's what we need. Would you be confident that he could do it for Liverpool in this side? That's the challenge. How are you selling that to us? The transfer board from last week, stuck in a time machine and brought to this week in a different universe.
Okay, so what you have right now, you have Jota right here who has no speed on him, and you have Darwin Nunez who and Serzi already did his analogy on that. You have a guy right there who could actually bag goals. I mean, if you go there and set him up the proper way, I think he'd fit perfectly in there. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to go there and for me, I think that he would fit in our system, even as a different option right there that we have. Because again, he played kind of like how Firmino played in a way right there. He did go there and actually challenge for the ball. So I mean, he's kind of a wriggly little player right there. So I mean, I think he'd fit perfectly with us.
Yeah, so you don't get to pick him, obviously, but would you back or disagree with that choice? Because there is maybe a sense that, he didn't give his best at Liverpool and there was a talent in there. And he wasn't, crap corners aside, he wasn't lazy. We can say that much. He did run his little Spanish ass off.
I think out of that batch is probably the best out of the worst. I mean, he had a better career at Celta Vigo once he left us. Bearing in mind who his coach was when he was with us, it's not surprising it didn't work out. But yeah, I can see him as another Chiesa who just make up the bench, just sit on the bench and just smile and not know where he is and what he's smiling at.
Trevor says he couldn't be worse than Nunez, and that is very, very true point. Jamie wants to know where Stephen Corker is, but he's like, what's his name? Not Conor Bradley, the other one, Cameron. What was his name? That kid, Phantom.
Brannigan?
Oh,
you talking about Brannigan?
The fullback that disappeared. That we couldn't.
Ramsey.
Ramsey,
yeah.
He's that Stephen Corker is like that for me. He was there and he was up front for a bit. But other than that, I don't think we saw much of him at all. So let's bring that picture back again there, Suzie. So Aspas is there. You have 5 to pick from, and probably 5 of the worst.
Oh, God.
Who's your first pick? Calvin Ramsey. Thanks very much there, Trevor. Calvin Ramsey does not exist, as we said on Thursday.
Just using Trevor's logic, they couldn't be worse than Nunez. I'll pick Balotelli. I think that guy, apart from being in his own head, he did potentially have a lot of talent. Definitely when he was breaking in, he was very physical and strong and aggressive. His technique was a lot better than Nunez. He could find the net. In this team, given the fact that Nunez is crap and Jota couldn't score, Jota just doesn't work anymore. He's completely lost now. I would choose Balotelli as the number 9, and he didn't shit on the club. When he left, he thanked Liverpool, and he had great admiration for Klopp for being honest with him, and obviously for Gerrard. So he wasn't a hated figure as a couple of other players that are on that list. So for that being the best out of the rest, I've picked Balotelli, and it was good in the air. He could actually score with his head, unlike Nunez, who I think will make a great central defender because that header, like against the turf, again, oh my god, yeah, but Balotelli. The more I think about Nunez, the more Balotelli makes sense.
Now, just to put a fly in the ointment, he only scored 4 goals.
Was that 2 more than Nunez this season?
Yeah, probably. I do remember a statistic that he missed more shots from the 6-yard box than any player in like 20 years or something like that. So it's probably level. The only thing is, and I think the thing that for me, I think you're right. He never crapped on the club at all. And he never really said much about us now, to be fair, but he never crapped on the club. But the one big difference between him and Nunez for me is that at least with Balotelli, you get mad stories like you went out to buy some bread and came back with 2 trampolines. Or sets off fireworks in his kitchen.
We tried to take a kid's eye out with a cigar.
Yeah, you don't have any.
Jamie, that was
Barton. That was Joey Barton. Yeah. Jamie says he's just throwing up on himself thinking about it. It's a tough one, Jamie. It's a tough one. This is like the Macca's moral dilemma from way back when, back in the day, in the olden times.
This is what happens when we have a boring week. We could just be talking about Trent or
yeah, we don't have to talk about him anymore. Brian, what do you think? Mario Balotelli, is that a yay or nay for you? Is he worth the hassle?
What a freaking head case that guy was. Oh my God. I mean, think about that. I mean, even just the whole thing with it. So I came there and went to a friendly with their match where Balotelli came there and played. It was AC Milan versus Liverpool and Charlotte. And the whole time people were talking about Balotelli as a rumor. Oh, we might be in for Balotelli. I'm just the whole time it's like, no, I just been out a whole night of drinking and then coming in at like 4:00 in the morning, wife calling me on the phone saying, where the hell am I at right there? That kind of stuff like that. And I'm just thinking, how is this going to work? And then also next thing, I think it was like within a week, we signed Balotelli. And the whole time my head was down, no, absolutely no. But again, it goes back to the same thing I said right there. Is he worse than what we got? It's kind of an Aspas. I mean, it's kind of an Aspas thing right there in a way right there. I mean, could you put him in as an option? Yes. But could you deal with the freaking mind games, this guy, why always me shit and stuff like that? Yeah, I don't know. In the long run, I have to go there way out right there. I can't deal with Balotelli again right there. He was too much for me. Way too much.
So then just to compound your mental anguish then, Brian, you get to pick your second player. You've got Konchesky, El Hadji Diouf, Charlie Adams, and Neil Ruddock.
It's gonna be Charlie Adam. It's gonna be Charlie Adam in a heartbeat, right there on that, right there. I mean, I know that people had a lot of problems with him right there in the midfield. That he was kind of inept and stuff like that. But there's one player on that list right there I will never pick, and so the lesser of the evils in this whole right now is definitely Charlie Adam. I mean, he was consistent. He just wasn't good. I mean, it's like, he did come there and play most of that 2010, 2011 season for the most part. Before he got shipped out right there. But yeah, out of that group right there, I'd have to go with him.
So Zee, what do you think? I thought he had a brilliant left foot. There was no denying he was a brilliant left foot, but to me, he always seemed like a player more suited to the 1970s than the 2000s and the 2010s. I saw a clip on, I think it might have been Craig Bellamy talking about Charlie Adams was essentially drunk out of a training session. And just the thing that would put me off him, apart from his fatness and his laziness, was his dental work was atrocious. I couldn't watch him celebrating with a smile because it was just looking into a chasm of depression.
Oh God, Charlie Adams. That summer is something I just want to block out. Between Stuart Downing, Charlie Adams, who else did we sign? Henderson. Well, Henderson was our Kenyan, I guess. Huh?
It was Henderson. That was the summer of Henderson, wasn't it? Yeah,
and there was another. God, it was the worst period of Kenny Dalglish's time with us that I can remember. But yeah, I know why Brian picked him. It's like, it's like which one hurts the least with what's left. I wouldn't have him in the squad. I wouldn't have him anywhere near the team. But if you have to twist my arm and give him 2 minutes on the field just to come on and get a Premier League medal, so be it. Because the rest of them are just, oh God, this is the worst show ever.
Jamie's trying to push the case for Danny Wilson, but that Mary's Prayer song was a banger, so I wouldn't have any truck with Danny Wilson. So Suzy, then in that case, you've got Paul Konchesky. You got. I'm pretty sure nobody's picking out Hadji Diouf, but I thought I'd just put him in there to see if there'd be a surprise redeeming feature that he had, or Neil Ruddock. So let's just say the choices between Neil Ruddock and Paul Konchesky. Which of those two are you picking to play in this current team? Bearing in mind we need a left back.
Is that what he was?
Yeah, he was. He should be left back in the changing room. I'd go for Ruddock. I think for all the crap that he got, and despite this coin game that he invented, and he epitomizes Roy Evans' era of us, just very weak on the players, and players running amok and controlling the game. He was the captain of that, but when he lacked in pace, he was kind of a hard man in that defense, and he had a good long range pass on him, and he was there when we needed sometimes, like the goal against Man United. But that was the only positive things I can say about him. And he's another one. He doesn't crap on the club. He never craps on the club when he left us. He's got a Liverpool FC heart. So out of the rest, I'd have to pick him.
Brian, do you think Neil Ruddock is one of those players that if you could take him, if you could do a sort of Scrooge kind of Ghost of Christmas Past, Present and Future kind of video, took him back in time and said, right, now you've seen what did happen, for all the talent you have, what are you going to do now with a second chance? Because he did have some talent. There was he was an exciting signing for Liverpool, but he was also lazy, fat, and drunk half the time. If you could get rid of that part of him, was there a player in there that was worthy of being, maybe a title-winning Liverpool captain, perhaps?
Sure, but it wasn't that the perfect analogy for the Spice Boys. I mean, that whole thing. I mean, like kind of like what Sir Z said. I mean, that was Roy. That's that's basically a snapshot of Roy Evans' side right there. This is why Jed basically forced his way into that right there because of the end of the boot room, and that's basically what happened there. So I think he was talented. I mean, the vices of a player of personal life right there drag putting a footballer down. I mean, you can go down the list of years and years and years. I mean, some of the greatest footballers out there wind up into a drunken mess. I mean, with George Best. So you can just go down the list right there. So, maybe he would be able to go back and say, hey, I'm going to clean my act up. But, a little bit too late now.
To be fair, George Best was probably born a drunken mess. I think a friend of mine played against him. A coach of mine played against him when he came over here. And I think it was a pre-season friendly for who was he? Was he with the Cosmos?
Yeah,
George Best. Yeah, it was a pre-season friendly, like a warm-up kind of game. He was playing in the lower league team. But he said even at whatever he was, 30-something, like drunken, you could smell the alcohol off him, he says, and like overweight, couldn't get the ball off him. Just couldn't get the ball off him. He was that good. But he just couldn't run. Just couldn't run. Yeah, some people just have it. Yeah. So there is that. So if you're El Hadji Diouf, you're still banished. That's why he couldn't get picked, because he's still in room 433, which we are banished forever and ever and ever. So let's look ahead to the future, the real future, the thing that Michael Arteta probably doesn't want to do, but begrudgingly he will have to. We play Arsenal at Anfield on Sunday, I believe. I hope it's Sunday. Mother's Day in the United States. Susie, this is one we want to win, really. It's, out of all the games we have left, we want to win this one, and we want to rub that guard of honor in their faces, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of the guard of honor. I really think it's cringe. I think it's Alex Ferguson that brought that along, and it just, you know, and we saw last week, you know, what a guard of honor does. I mean, even like the period before, you know, it's not genuine. Like, some of the players aren't genuine, and you know, you see Bernardo Silva refuse to do it, and you know, I don't blame him in a way. I understand the theory behind it, and you know, you want to congratulate your team, you know, your fellow professionals or whatever, but it's not genuine. I don't think there's any need for it. I think it's a show for TV. But having Arsenal do it for us, oh yes, I would take that. You know, if this was like the old Sky where it was a pay-per-view, I would pay-per-view this just to see Arsenal give us a guard of honor at Anfield. Arteta being there, and who's the captain? Is it Rice? Rice there, you know, captaining that team, and just watching our players come out in front of the Anfield crowd and giving us a guard of honor. And you know, just to see Arteta's face. This is the second time he's done this. He's given us more guard of honors than he's won cups, and that pretty much says it all. So yes, and we've got to have a full strength team. We have to have a full strength team. The only question is, do you play Bradley or do you play Trent? That's the only question that needs to be asked. Other than that, yeah, full strength team.
Brian, what would you do? Would you play Trent?
Nope, not one bit. So, in my opinion, right there, I think that this is a kind of a statement that was made in Discord right there. This is a preseason right there. This is a time right there for you to get your structure down of what you're going to do next season right there, and then give the players right there who are committed to being with this club the playing time and the time right there to actually go and get melded together. Trent doesn't want to be here. I'm done. You know what? That's the thing in the past. That's in the past. Turn the page. Thank you, Trent, for what you did. But guess what? Time to move on. You decide to move on with that phony video that you played and stuff like that. It was the most cringe-worthy thing that I've seen in a long time right there. I mean, with it. So again, in my opinion, right there, no, I wouldn't play him. Bradley right there. I bring kids up right there. Put a kid on the bench right there. I put Nallo on the bench right there. I let Nallo come through there. You know, Nallo and Kwanzaa right there. I put them ahead right now of Trent at the moment. Because I mean, what are you getting out of Trent right there? I mean, he came there and did his walk around and and go in front of the cop right there and and doing all this like crying and and things like that, and then you come back like a week later right there and you basically say, hey, guess what, I'm leaving. So you know what, again, no, I'm done. Let Trent move on. I wouldn't even let him tell him to dress out and say, hey, thanks for everything, appreciate it right there, but you know what, maybe you need to go ahead and get your move straight, so before to Madrid, get all your affairs in order, because right now this is about the Liverpool Football Club. You're not part of the Liverpool Football Club in a matter of 3 weeks.
This is the don't want to dwell too much on the Trent thing, but in terms of like the games that are remaining, had Trent said at the start of the season or close to the start, look, this is probably going to be my last year. I loved every moment of the club, of being at the club, and I've got to try my best to make sure we win as much as possible. He would be deserving of a farewell, a proper farewell, because we would have known. It's the fact that he dragged it out so long and played so many games in the media that, it soured the whole thing. And you don't want that distraction for the rest of the players, do you, to have him on, or even on the bench, like I would say, like, getting the attention of the fans on him rather than on the players that are actually on the field playing the game. He could have done it so much differently and had the outcome that, his success and dedication beforehand deserves.
Yeah, I mean, to play devil's advocate, if he came out at the beginning of the season and said he was leaving, then, which is fine, but then the questions would remain on Salah and Virgil. and all attention would have been on them, bigger than what it was for the whole of the season. And the season where obviously we know how the season ended, and we won the league, and obviously you talk about two players that on the months of the contracts, and the professionalism for Virgil and Salah never dropped once. I just think it would have been too much of a distraction, personally. Just to see the flip side of it. If Trent would have come out at the beginning of the season and said, "Look, this is my last season," I think the distraction of Salah and Virgil would have just been immense. And it'd be like, are they signing? Are they signing? And then, again, we'd have all the body language experts come out and manipulate this, manipulate that. So I think I think Trent was in a no-win situation, but that's not to say that he didn't set it up for his own. So I don't feel sorry for him. He should have done this last year. He should have. So someone dropped the ball, and I understand no one wanted to, re-sign a contract not knowing who Klopp's successor was going to be and how it was going to turn out. So there are a number of factors in it. I think, given the circumstances, Trent was in a no-win situation, and maybe if he'd have pushed the move in the summer for Madrid, so we got some money out of him, and then come out afterwards and say, "Look, I didn't want to go into my last year, leave on a free, and wanted Liverpool to get some money out of me. This is why I left." I think it would have been more palatable. But and then since then, and that video. But what got to me with the video was like the first thing he said, "I spent the last 20 years here." Like, yeah, you did, but he didn't do us a favor. It went both ways. We gave you that chance. You took it. Congrats. For me personally, I would put him in the legendary status because of what he helped us achieve. He wasn't a big player. There were some huge moments that he created. But yeah, it leaves a bitter taste. But at the same time, every time, even prior to knowing that his contract was going to run out, even last season, every time there was a mistake in the defense, we were got on his back, and so it was just twofold. I think it's out of the three, we got the better of the deal, for sure. But yeah, I think it's that video, and you look at the other players that have left, Sadio Mane, Firmino, and even Origi, they left on even their farewell videos just seemed really more genuine. Trent's one, he just felt like he was trying to convince himself that this is still the right move, which makes and to the outside world, Madrid, they don't even have a manager. Obviously it's probably going to be Alonso, but that whole club is just the midfield is just in disarray. Modric is still getting contracts, and he's like 65 years old. That's how it's. When you look at Mbappe getting booed, and he scored 30 goals in La Liga, and the problem with Madrid, and it's not our problem anymore. What happens whether he gets booed on his second game or first game or even a 10th game, it's not our problem anymore. It's not. I don't really care. But with Madrid, you're only as good as your last game. And and he'll find that out the hard way. But again, it's not our problem. We just move on. Like Brian, I wouldn't play him again for the rest of the season. We don't need to. There's nothing. There's nothing. We're not going to learn anything from him playing. And and I think Liverpool made the right move with getting this out, and they probably forced him to have it out now because he was probably trying to get a free move to Madrid before his contract ended so he can play in the World Club Cup. But now we've got some control over this now because Madrid are desperate for him to play in that World Club Cup. And so we've got a little bit of control in terms of, all right, well, you want him to pay us 5 mil or 10 mil. If you want him that bad, why are we going to help you out to win $100 million, £100 million reward? Well, why are we going to help you out? You screwed us over. And you're probably trying to screw us over with Konate as well. And that's what Madrid do. They they're pushing players to end their contracts, or take it down to the last season of contracts where they're just picking up these players for free, like they did with Mbappe. And and this Man City had a foresight with Haaland and signed him on a 50-year contract. No, it's not going to happen. They're not going to fall into that same trap. So again, like Brian, thank you for your service. It's done. You go your way. We don't need you anymore. We don't need to see you in a Liverpool shirt anymore. You probably won't get that goodbye that you wanted. But who knows? I mean, Liverpool fans, there's a reason why we say, or everyone says, Liverpool do have the best fans, and maybe in the stadium they might be a little bit more forgiving than we are off the stadium or out of the stadium. But yeah, I understand him wanting to leave. He just could have done it in a better way, but it is what it is. So we just move on, and hopefully Bradley can stay fit for the rest of the season, and we just have to look on to replacing him. And we don't owe Trent anything anymore. He's got a big bumper pay. His brother's got a big bumper pay. He's gonna go play with his bum chum out there, and that's it.
Brian, do you think, from an Arsenal perspective, do you think that loss in the Champions League will affect them? Do you think the doubts are starting to creep in the Arsenal players about Arteta, and that's something we could take advantage of? Because they're playing against league champions who don't give a crap what the result's going to be, but so probably hopefully play with a bit more freedom than we did against Chelsea.
So the thing is that Arsenal's going to be one out there to go try to prove to themselves that they're a better side than what they were against PSG. The problem is that you're coming against a side who doesn't really care. I mean, we've already won the league, so it really basically puts everything back, the onus back on them. So they have to perform, which a lot of time causes pressure, and Arsenal can't do pressure. So again, I think it really falls back into our hands. I mean, because again, it doesn't make a difference anymore. It's not a must-win match. It's not anything like that. It's just, guess what? We're gonna go out there and play a proper football in front of our fans right there, and get a result. I mean, and that's it. There's no pressure. This is like party time, basically, for the most part. We literally have this match and one more match left at Anfield and at the end of the season, and that's it. It's over with. I mean, so it's like, why worry? There's no stress. There's no worries. There's no anything. I mean, even last week right there against Chelsea, that was probably the most stress-free I've been in years right there watching Liverpool. It's like, I didn't even think about that, about all those moments right there where I was pacing back and forth, go there going and putting my head in the couch, walking away from the TV, all the things that my wife looks at me and says, you're fucking crazy. And these things are there. I didn't do anything. I sit there and watched the match right there and say, you know what? Okay, well, maybe we should have been a little bit better here, but you know what? I don't care. It's really, that was for Chelsea to go there, for them to go there to play themselves into a position right there. But we don't care at the moment. At the moment, I want to see fitness. I want to see performances right there. If the result doesn't happen right there, it's like preseason. If the result doesn't happen, okay, so be it right there. But the thing is, I want to see connectivity. I want to see Slot try different things right there, and put different people and maybe move players in different spots right there to see where we're at right there. But ultimately right there, pressure's on Arsenal. It's on Lego head. I mean, because he's his ego is the thing right there is the biggest part of this. So let's just go out there and just play a football match.
For what it's worth, for the importance of it all, do you want to make a score prediction and an impact player? Well, you know what we know right now.
I personally think we have to win this. We have to win this. Just because the second place, just because it's Arteta, just because it's Arsenal, and we still could control Arsenal's final position in the league. This is the last chance we have, is because if Man City win, they got level on points. I think they're just behind the goal difference. And if either Newcastle or Chelsea beat each other, they're only 1 point ahead, 1 point behind. And Arsenal have to basically win all the rest of the games just to finish second this season. So it'll be nice just to give Arsenal that more extra pressure to the end of the season. And but yeah, I think we'll win this. I think we'll win this 3-1. Actually, no, let's go for 3-0. Let's have a clean sheet out of this. And impact player McAllister.
Brian, what do you think? Score and impact player?
I'm going with a 3-2 with that Darwin Nunez hat trick.
I gotta go with 7-0 because it doesn't matter. 7-0. Darwin Nunez hat trick.
2 hat tricks.
That's it. Now Darwin Nunez hat trick. I'm gonna say Gravenberch with a goal, and the rest is Salah. That's my prediction. 7-0. We'll smash them into the middle of next week. And
my impact player, Bradley, right there, because he's going to come out there with a point to prove.
Yeah, he did. He looked very, very good. I think we discussed it on the watch along. He has some jets on him when he goes. We just need to make sure those jets don't have to go into the garage for repairs every now and again. But yeah, no, it'll be an interesting game to watch anyway. But I think we all think it's exactly what Brian said. It's just a preseason, really. It's a preseason. I don't know whether he's going to try new things here now at this stage of the game because players might be too tired to do the things he would want from them. But nevertheless, it might give us a taster of what's going to come next year when he starts to put his own real mark on the team. The big question before we wrap up, boys, though, will we see Chiesa for any substantial minutes whatsoever?
I think we do. I think I do think it's going to go over 40-22. I think as much as we think it's a preseason, I think the players just professionally want to absolutely annihilate this team. But I think we'll see Chiesa for more than like 10-15 minutes.
I mean, that's one footballer's biography I want to read years and years from now, but what happened there? But with that said, Brian, do you think we see Chiesa?
Nope. He got his five the times on the pitch right there, and I think he'll probably be going back and looking ahead right there to probably a next season in Italy.
Yeah, probably that sounds probably the most likely thing. So with that said, boys and girls, or probably mostly boys, although we do have a Sharon that watches Kelly Gallivan, but Sharon Gabla look like so you know we our sexy bald heads get the ladies to watch. But yeah, if you want to watch more and know when the things are on to watch, this is what you have to do. You have to follow us on YouTube. You have to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and on Twitter, X, whatever it's called, Blue Sky Mastodon, and Uri Geller's special Christmas magic tricks of telepathy. It's in the power of your mind, but just don't do it near any spoons, otherwise you'll eat ice cream with your fingers. Gentlemen, thank you very much for sticking with us today, as always. It's been a pleasure. And I believe there's a morning coffee show tomorrow morning. If there isn't, I'm in trouble. And then keep an eye out for such things as watch-alongs and pre-matches, etc. Over the weekend. But for everybody who commented, thank you for doing so. Except for that weird guy. I'm not going to mention what he said, but it was up for a half a second if you want to look back. And if you want to know when weird guys, apart from us three and Cozzy, show up on this show, make sure you actually like and subscribe and set your notifications so you know when we're on. But for everybody else, peace out, enjoy the weekend, and we will hopefully see everybody tomorrow and maybe Sunday as well. Here's the funky music. Have a good one.